Thanks,
Hello.
Claire.
Hi. Thank you guys for joining us. This is our second session of our Wellbeing Week, which is really exciting because it's something that we've never done before. We were hoping, obviously, to do it in person, but actually, I think it's kind of good that it's virtual because it means that we can all sit in our houses and I'll put my hands up. I've got my jammy bottoms on under this. So, yeah, it's all good. But tonight I am joined by the lovely Kris.
Hi.
And for those of you who don't know, which I'm sure you all do, Kris is another secondary breast cancer patient of 12 years, is it now?
12, almost 12 and a half years. Yeah.
Oh, so which is just incredible. And Kris decided when she was diagnosed to set up Copperfield, which I'm sure all of you know. So yeah, that's just a bit of a kind of little bit about Kris. And for those of you who have not met, I'm Lisa. I'm also a secondary breast cancer patient. I am 4 years down the line, and I also set up Make Seconds Count as a result of my diagnosis, and kind of inspired by Kris, to be honest, because obviously I followed Copperfield, and kind of just saw the amazing work that they were doing and thought there was a kind of gap in terms of support for secondary breast cancer. So that's why Make Seconds Count kind of came about. So yeah, so Kris, do you want to tell us a wee bit just about your I hate saying that word, journey. I don't know about you. I always find that a bit cringe.
Do you know what? I do hate that term, but I can't think of a better term. So I say it and use it and I go, oh.
Yeah, me too.
And they make that face after I say it.
Yeah.
My cat Lady Marmalade wants to be part of this, by the way. So I'm sorry, I had to pick her up, otherwise she'll just meow the whole time.
Oh, bless her.
Yeah. So hi everyone. It's like so lovely to be part of this. So great to see so many faces on here. Yeah, Lisa and I have known each other for a little while now. We have mutual friends, but I think even without those mutual friends, we would have probably crossed paths because of what we do. And obviously I share a huge interest in making sure that research and support is given towards secondary breast cancer, selfishly, obviously. And I think it's amazing how much Lisa has already achieved in such a short amount of time, and to have the support that she's had and the funding and all the rest of it. So kudos to you guys. It's amazing. I personally am quite sad that this isn't happening in person, because I love Scotland and I would have loved to come up there and hang out with you guys.
You've just been up. You've just been up doing a crazy walk.
Yeah, I've just completed the West Highland Way, which I can highly recommend to anyone that's thinking about doing a long hike. I mean, I don't know why you would. I question myself a lot of the time on the walk. But it is beautiful. The Highlands are I think my spiritual home. I absolutely adore it up there. And it came at a really good time to be doing that walk, because just days after returning from my trip, I had to go see a surgeon about a little operation that I have to have, as we all know. And I'm assuming everyone on this call has secondary breast cancer, or is maybe in looking after someone who has. Yeah,
I think patient tonight.
So yeah, I mean, we're all aware of how new things spring up all the time, and we're always managing that. And after about 2 years of stability, cancer's crept up in my adrenal gland, in my left adrenal gland, which is apparently quite a rare place for it to go. I doubt very much that anyone else has had this happen on this call, but if you have, I'd love to hear from you. It's quite a rare place, and actually they're not 100% convinced that it's even breast cancer.
Oh, really?
So yeah, so once they take it out, so I'm having an operation on Friday to take it out.
Okay.
And then we'll stick it under the microscope to see what's happening there. Yeah.
How do you cope with surgeries? I know people probably think, 12 years down the line, you're used to all these curveballs, but I personally don't find things any easier as time progresses. How do you cope with, obviously having that stability, and then, you're obviously thrown that curveball. Like, what are your coping techniques to try and help with that?
Do you know what? I am better at coping with the treatments and the plan of action, you know, the procedures that I have to have. So
Yeah.
this is going to sound so bad, and it's definitely a sign that I need to stop and have a break, but I'm actually looking forward to being looked after next week, well, on Friday, and just lying down for a bit.
Having a good sleep.
Yeah. So the operation is keyhole, hopefully, as long as they can get it through keyhole, and so I expect to be recovering quite quickly.
Good.
But I mean, I would say that it's the unknown bit that I find the harder bit, rather than the action side of things.
Yeah.
So for me, it's the typical scanxiety, like not knowing what's coming next.
Yeah. It is a thing, scanxiety. I mean, so many folk that I suppose don't have this disease. If I say scanxiety, they're like, oh, what? But actually, and I probably most of the people on the call tonight would agree, it is definitely a thing, and it screws me up even now. Like, I mean, I'm quite lucky that my scans get reported relatively quickly, normally within 1 to 2 days, which is, but even then I'm losing my mind over that 24 to 48 hours. And like, after 12 years of this, I mean, are you more relaxed about scans, or do you still get that same?
No.
Does it get worse? Do you think it gets worse? Like,
in some ways I think you do, because I think your body and your mind remembers all the previous trauma and the previous times you've been stressed, so it's almost like it mounts up. So if anyone's wondering if it gets easier after 12 years, it doesn't, I'm afraid. And I hope you all get to experience that yourself in some way or another. But I think it doesn't get easier, and I definitely struggle around the waiting bit. But like you, I mean, you have an amazing oncologist. She's a legend, isn't she?
Yeah, she's a bit scary.
Olga,
yeah.
Who, but I think you've probably communicated that you have those needs, you have that worry. And it wasn't until like in the recent 2 or 3 years that I've felt really comfortable to say to my oncologist, look, I get really bad anxiety. I really struggle when you don't call me. I really struggle if I email and you don't email me back straight away. And he knows that. He knows to try and handle that and work with me with that. So I think it's so important to be open about that with your oncologist or your nurse, if you have a clinical nurse specialist, and kind of say, these are my needs. Like, this is how I cope mentally when you are doing these procedures or these scans, and this is what I need from you. And there shouldn't be any reason why they can't do things quicker or in the way that you need them to happen. So I don't go to the hospital for scan results anymore, because, well, A, COVID, but also B, I just don't want to, because it's the waiting in the waiting room, and it's the having to walk back out of the hospital that I find so excruciating. So I will only get calls or emails now.
Do you know, I think that's a really good point, because I remember when we met, when you came here for a coffee, and we were chatting about how we kind of both deal with our diagnosis. And, I think it was 2 years down the line, because it's hard to believe that was so long ago, because of COVID. But
when we could still have
when
fun,
when we could hug, and like take shameless selfies. And the biggest bit of advice I think I took from us chatting about our diagnosis was to be in control of your own diagnosis, and to question your oncologist, and to make sure that you're happy with the way that you're being treated. And I think that definitely empowered me to ask more questions, because I think, especially when you're diagnosed initially, it's also overwhelming, isn't it? And you almost just sit back and say, okay, that's what I'm doing, and it's like rabbit in headlights. Whereas the longer you go on with this disease, you definitely can become more confident to question things. And we are both lucky, we've both got good teams behind us. But have you always had the same team, or have you moved like oncologists over the years? Or
so I've had 3 different oncologists, but that's because I've moved locations. So started my diagnosis in Northamptonshire, then moved to London, and then to Cornwall. And actually, when I moved to Cornwall, I was really adamant that I didn't want to change treatment. So I didn't want to change my team. I wanted to stick with London because I thought, oh, London's where all the top oncologists are. That's where they know the best.
Yeah.
And the most recent and up-to-date treatments and whatnot. And I was so wrong to think that because I'm now with the guy who is in charge of all the clinical research that happens in the Southwest. So he's like the man. If anyone's going to know anything, it's going to be him.
Yeah.
And so, he goes to London, but he also happens to surf and mountain bike in Cornwall. Do you know what I mean? Like he's allowed a life too, which I think I forgot. Like they do go home and not think about me when I at the end of the day. And I was like, oh, okay, fine.
He's actually a person.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced that mine is, but
yeah, but it doesn't sound like it. It doesn't sound like yours is.
No, she's a machine.
Yeah.
But I trust her. And I think that is
that's so important.
It is, isn't it? Because
oh my God, it really is. And it's to trust that you're totally free to say all of your worries and your doubts about the treatment that they're offering.
Yeah.
And for you to say, no, I don't want to have that drug, or I need to have a think about that. And they should be allowing you to have that time too. They should say, you don't have to decide right now.
Absolutely.
But let's chat again in a week and see what you feel like doing. Because I think there's always this like feeling that there's this massive sense of urgency that we have to make a decision right now because the cancer is literally spreading at the rate of knots and we have to do this right now. And a week's not going to make a massive difference. Give yourself time to make a decision and talk it through with your family, and like get those worries out and then decide what you want to do. Because I just don't think anyone should rush you into making a decision. Like that's not teamwork.
No, it's not.
It has to be teamwork.
And we're all so different, and I think you probably get asked quite a lot, oh well I've been diagnosed and my diagnosis is quite similar to yours, and how do you cope? But I don't think there is a one size fits all approach, because we can all be, there could be 5 of us on this call that are on exactly the same protocol, but we probably deal with it in totally different ways, or our body reacts to it in totally different ways. And I think you're totally right, is allowing yourself to take a step back sometimes and say, what's working for me? What's not working for me? How do I kind of fix that to have the best quality of life? Because ultimately, all of us want to have a quality of life. And it is that old adage of life is too short, but it's it is true, although in your case you're smashing it, and that I think, again, I hate that term inspiring, but it's motivational for other patients to see somebody doing well. But kind of on the treatment line, just clinical trials is obviously, like you, I'm quite fascinated by clinical trials, and obviously one of the things that we've been working on as a charity is we've just launched our first clinical trials nurse specialists, so we're piloting that up in Scotland just now, which is awesome. So that pilot's about to come to an end actually, so we can kind of review it. Have you had much input from your team as to clinical trials? Have you considered them? Like what was your thoughts about it? Because I know everybody's got such a different line of thought about clinical trials.
Well, we wouldn't have access to any of the drugs that we have today if they didn't exist. So they're so important. But I think it's so good that you now have someone who is that go-between, because I feel like there's the patient and then there's this magical land where they do these trials and there's no in-between person that is guiding you or signposting you to what you need to know. Sometimes you just feel like, oh, am I a guinea pig to help the next person survive? It's not going to help me. I think that's obviously a big factor. And then you think, well, actually, but it can help someone. So if it doesn't help me, it can help someone in the future. That's also a good thing. But then equally, I mean, I haven't been in that position where I've only got like a clinical trial or nothing left to go. I haven't been in that position yet. I have been offered a clinical trial in London before I moved my care to Cornwall. And that was nothing spectacular. It didn't sound like earth-shattering. And because of that. And I think you always have to look in, like, what is the agenda behind that clinical trial? Like, why is my oncologist wanting me to do that one so badly? And it's because he had designed it, and he was heavily invested in it. And I thought, okay, that's great, but is it really going to help me? And I had to really dig deep and kind of investigate why he wanted me to do that. And I'm so glad I turned it down, because it wasn't right for me at that time. It might be in the future, and I don't even know if it was that successful. But no, I just think there's just a serious lack of information about and access to them for secondary cancer patients.
I think that's why we saw that gap, you know, in terms of trying to have this nurse who can kind of go away and do the information seeking for you. Because even, you know, even if you are quite educated about secondary breast cancer, to go and find all this trial information, there's like so many different databases with different information, some's out of date, some's in date, and you're pretty much sitting there thinking, I don't know what to do, you know. And then there's that I suppose misconception of, am I going to get a placebo? You know, and that puts the fear of God in, doesn't it? And I think everything about this kind of disease it's about education, isn't it? You've got to educate yourself as a patient, but you've got to educate yourself to the level that you're happy with, because I know that varies in all of us. Like, you know, I'm a statistics phobe. I don't deal well with statistics. I'm honest about that. I do struggle with, you know, the statistics. I obviously know they are there and they are very relevant and really important. And with my work hat on, you know, I will absolutely, you know, kind of shout about that. But with my personal patient hat on, like, I really struggle with that mentally.
I'm not a number. I haven't been a number, and they will never be a number. And I try to remember that as much as possible. I mean, I've already proven that statistics are bollocks, aren't they? So
well, look at you know.
I refuse to start believing them now. But in some cases they are really useful, and they help guide some things. But for us patients, I don't necessarily think we have to hang all hope and guidance on that. I'm sorry if you can hear my cat screaming at me.
Oh no, don't be that. Normally I've got my little puppy in here yelping, so it's actually quite nice that she's next to the one.
So chatty.
I know. See, like, just, you know, talking about kind of treatments, and obviously there's the protocols that you're given by your oncologist, you know, which we all think, you know, that is the be all and end all. And then you've got clinical trials, which is like Narnia, I suppose, because it's just like this overwhelming amount of information. And then you've got alternative therapies, which kind of sit in that no man's land, don't they? And I know that I really get a lot of good out of some alternative therapies, but I know you do too. And I just really would be, I think a lot of folk on the call would be really interested to hear about, you know, what you do in terms of like additional therapies. Like, it's like kind of integrated medicine, isn't it? That, you know, and so can you tell us about what you do in that respect?
I mean, I talk about this a lot, and like I bang on about this a lot, but like, to me, alternative is not a good word when it comes to treating cancer, because it's almost like a forbidden language. Then it's like hush hush, and we should keep it a secret. And I think the more open we can be about some of the things we want to try and give a try and all the rest of it, the better for everyone. Because I think if we keep things that are potentially really successful a secret, then no one else will benefit in the future.
Absolutely.
And I think if you have an oncologist that was really anti it, then either find another one, or, you know, or find a way of working with them, because ultimately it's your treatment plan and you can do what you like. And your oncologist should be open to discussing things that aren't found in his or her textbook.
Exactly.
So I think you know, they are not God. They can't control everything, and anyone that assumes or acts like that really needs to be questioned. Because if they really knew everything, like I just keep telling myself, if they really knew everything, they would be able to tell me why I have breast cancer and why we haven't cured it yet.
Absolutely.
And until they can, they don't have all the answers. And so you know, I have been dabbling with things that have ranged from, I really want to, you know, stop the cancer growing, to just literally getting through the side effects and the quality of life stuff. So it's a real spectrum for me, and like where things sit on that spectrum like depends what they are. But
yeah, what kind of things at the moment are you finding, especially with having, you know, this progression that, you know, you're having to deal with just now? What are you finding helps you just now to deal with, you know, that progression?
Well, I haven't, like, now that things have progressed in my adrenal glands, like I'll check in with some of the doctors that are dealing with the other side of things. So like I have a mistletoe doctor who some of you guys might know of, Dr. Guider at Camp Hill Medical Practice. And so as soon as I got those results, I checked in with him and said, hey, things are moving again, let's chat. And then he can guide, he can decide whether we change things up a little bit. But like until I know what this cancer is, and until we've put it under a microscope, and I have requested that we really dissect this thing, so we're going to get it fully sequenced. There are some drug companies that have pots of money that allow your doctors to choose whether they get fully sequenced, and that means that they will test it against all the current drugs and all the current mutations that they know of, and then that'll help guide the treatment. And I think that is the key to future treatments. It has to be personalized, it has to be guided by the knowledge of what the cancer is. Like it's not good enough just to look at someone in black and white on a piece of paper and say this patient has this, because we are all so different. And it's interesting because I kind of had to remind, so the guy that's going to take this cancer out of my body on Friday is a urologist. So he deals with a lot of urological cancers. If he sees someone with my profile on, and he said this to me when I saw him, he said, on paper and on a scan, all those grey bits on a scan, if I looked at that, I would say, what is the point in doing this operation? This patient is going to die. And I said, well, it's a bloody good job. I'm here in person. I can tell you that I've just walked 80 miles on the West Island Way. I can tell you that this is personalized care for a reason. We have to make it individualized.
We've got
because everyone is different. We're all on the spectrum of wellness, and I'm at the end where I feel really well, so you have to give me this operation. He was like, I cannot argue with that. So he's happy to do it. And I also reminded him that, so one of the reasons I might have this extra new cancer on my adrenal gland is a side effect of the treatments that I've had all these 12 years.
Really? Okay.
Right. So if you read a lot at the effects of some of the drugs that we have taken, some of the side effects are a different cancer. And this isn't considered, I don't think this is ever really truly considered in the secondary like stage 4 cancer setting. Like quality of life, long-term effects of things aren't really properly considered.
No, they're not.
They just don't expect us to live long enough to have these things affect us. And I think that comes with if you think about fertility, people don't expect you to live long enough to have children. They don't consider it when they are doing your breast surgery. So I mean, why would you want nice boobs? Because you're not going to live long enough to appreciate them and care about your looks. It's not considered enough. And I think the longer we survive, and I do believe that breast cancer is one of those diseases that people are surviving longer with, so we're going to have longer term issues and side effects of these treatments. And these quality of life, what makes us joyful, what makes us sad, have to be like, they have to start considering those things.
They've got to, you know, and there's a big survey at the moment actually that we're part funding with Warwick University on exactly that. And it's so important that, you know, we are treated as individuals, you know, and I've learned quite a bit just over my involvement with like our medical advisory boards, you know, about personalized care. And I'm in the fortunate position that my oncologist, when I had my brain mets, so she requested the Foundation 1 test. So it was analysed, it was broken down. They were able to look at, you know, the pattern of my cancer. And that to me should happen to all of us. You know, it should just be a given that we are given access to these treatments. We shouldn't have to go and seek it out ourselves. And I think that's where a lot of the problem is, that if you're diagnosed with secondary breast cancer, it's almost like this minefield, isn't it? That you're put into it. You don't know which way to turn. You don't know where to go. You don't know anything about treatments. you know, you're getting told, well, you should do this, but actually they're not telling you about all the other things that you should look at, you know, like things that you can do to help yourself in terms of, you know, additional therapies. And like you mentioned, mistletoe there, you know, I know that's worked really well for you. And it's something that I guess I feel like I've got it in my toolkit. Like, I don't know about you, but I feel like I've got this little toolkit of things that I research, you know, and I'm touch wood, you know, I have been stable for 3 years, you know, but I know that my cancer is going to get covered to this protocol at some point, you know, so I have looked at things, you know, I've looked at like Care Oncology, they do a protocol, you know, I've looked at that, and I was going to start it, but I had progression into my brain at that point, so it all just went a little bit off kilter, you know. But then it's things like I came down to London to get CyberKnife, you know, there's no machine up here in Scotland. It's just, it's a total imbalance, isn't it, across the UK as to where you live, who your oncologist is, and how much you actually know about the disease yourself. And it's how we kind of change that, you know, how do we change that? How do we educate people better about secondary breast cancer? Like, you do amazing work through Copperfield, and I think what you do in terms of raising awareness of primary, especially in young people, is absolutely phenomenal. But it's like, how do you think we approach it for secondary breast cancer? Because it's a difficult one, because you can get accused of scaring people, but actually we want, you know, it's educating, isn't it? And just interested to get your viewpoint on how
what I've actually found really useful is recently I did a talk for the Integrative Cancer.
I saw
something.
That,
just British Society of Integrative Cancer.
I can't say that word either.
They're fairly new, which is great. But it was intended not for us patients. It was intended to educate GPs, oncologists, nurses, all these, you know, people that come into contact with cancer patients. And it was so useful because finally they heard it from the horse's mouth. They could be like, okay, so what are your needs? What is it you want to know more about? And obviously there are boundaries. They can't do everything. They are time restricted. They are money restricted. And as are we. There's only so much we can do. There's only so much we can keep in our mind.
Cancer's expensive.
It's expensive. There's only so much we can deal with. There's only so much we have access to. There are always going to be inequalities when it comes to our health. Like, it's not fair for everyone. It's really not. And I think it's the biggest battle that we have. But to finally be listened to is a big start. Like, to be listened to and kind of say to them, look, this is what it's like for us patients, and for them to realize that it's kind of important that the other stuff that we do outside of the hospital, for them to ask us what we are doing beyond those four walls, is so important. And for them to start thinking that that should be considered a lot more when it comes to our cancer plan. So my oncologist is so keen to make his patients understand that movement and exercise comes hand in hand with cancer treatment. Isn't something that they should wait to learn themselves or hear about through someone else. He feels like that is a job for the oncologist to make sure that that is conveyed, because it has such a massive like, it can have such massive impact on the treatment outcomes if you do exercise. And actually I heard of this term called, oh gosh,
oh, you're like me, it's like brain fart, isn't it? And it's like, it's there.
So it's like, okay, I'm gonna try and think of the word. It's like so, you know, you have
wait, I'm trying to eke it out of you.
Thank you. It's been a long day. It's been such a long day of words coming out of my mouth. I know.
Kris has been recording her book today, so she's literally been speaking all day.
I've had to get on the honey and lemon so that I could get through this. But so you have aftercare, which is called like post,
like post-operative care.
Yes. I'm going to think of the term by the end of this, but anyway, there's a pre something that comes that is also just as important as the post. So as like, and it was so refreshing to hear this, but one oncologist said that the worst thing an oncologist can do, can say at the time of diagnosis, or the consultant can say at the time of consultant, is to go home and rest. That's literally telling someone to go home and die.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is so interesting and so important, because it's the movement, it's the keeping things active, staying sociable, being part of your community, all that stuff has actually such a good outcome for treatment.
It really is. And I mean, I know you've been through, you know, a lot of surgeries, and when you talk about movement, like when I was diagnosed, because of where mine were, I had to have surgery that meant I had to learn to walk again. And that was a really difficult period. But again, like you, my oncologist was like, you need to do this.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be able to exercise, you know, and I still do. My spine is kind of, my son thinks I'm a bit robotics. It's like metal and cement. So I do find quite a lot of exercise quite restrictive,
Yeah.
Because I don't have that movement in my spine. And there's probably, you know, quite a few ladies that are watching with kind of spine meds. And what types of exercise have you found really help you? Because I know you do a lot of yoga, don't you? And you actually do that wacky kind of yoga on the all the pulling things.
The Pilates, yeah, reformer Pilates. I love reformer Pilates. I actually feel like I'm on some kind of a stretching machine, and I feel like taller and better after. It's so good. Or I mean, it also looks like a sex torture, but I mean,
I wasn't. Yeah. Sex was that. That's a whole other topic.
Oh my god, let's not go there today.
No.
I mean, you know, I say movement instead of exercise because I think sometimes people think exercise equals gyms, equals like, you know, I mean, it can literally mean going for a short walk. It's just getting your heartbeat up. But I mean, I've done all sorts, because it has been 12 years, so of course I've done lots of different things. So but I try to incorporate yoga and Pilates as much as possible, and I've now started seeing a personal trainer, which has been so enlightening. It's been amazing. I've really enjoyed that so far, and that was kind of, I started that to get me ready for the West Highland Way walk, but actually I'm going to keep seeing her because I'm really enjoying it.
I think mentally it helps as well. Like I like you've kind of dabble in a bit of, I say, light exercise, and even the days that I feel, God, I really can't be arsed with this, actually when I've dragged myself, you know, out of bed and done it, you know, I definitely feel better for it. And but then I think it's taken me a while to accept that there are also going to be some days that I actually don't feel like getting out of bed, and actually that's okay. I don't beat myself up about that anymore. I used to be really, really hard on myself, and, you know, like, come on, you can do it, you know, but we've got cancer, you know, and much as we want to live our best life, I think also listen to your body as well, because sometimes your body's just shouting at you going, have a rest, you know, spend a day in bed, watch Netflix, you know, do your gardening, you know, but that's definitely taken me time. Like, you know, do you find it easy to rest, or, you know, because you're quite an active and busy person?
I think I really do beat myself up about the downtimes, because I almost feel like, you know, I'm not ill, so therefore don't let your body think it's ill, don't stop. But I mean, I'm trying to unlearn that all the time. I'm trying to make myself think that resting is also ensuring that I can do more of the active stuff. You know, it's like the refueling of a tank. But no, I think I allow myself rest, but not very much.
I know. I totally knew that. I was like, because again,
but I mean, I love a Netflix and chill evening as much as the next person.
So it's getting that balance, isn't it? You know,
it is. But I think chill can mean so many things. Sometimes chill can mean going out for a run, like a 10K run, you know, like it really is not necessarily about how active you are, like physically, but it's like what you're doing for your mind, like that is allowing you to switch off or reconnect, like switching off or reconnecting and being more mindful, or really forgetting everything. Like everything is allowed. And I think and I'm pretty sure that everyone will resonate with this, but before cancer, I was so disconnected from my body, like, so my body was screaming out for a long time that I had something going on, and I was ignoring it, and just trying to overcome it with more exercise, or just just doing silly things. And now that I am really in tune with my body, sometimes I'm like, well, am I too in tune? Like, is it, if I need to strike a balance of like, yep, I'm checking in, like, we are in this together, my body and mind, we're connected, but equally it's okay to be like, okay, but can you just stop for today? Can you just shut up? And I think it's just getting a good balance of all of that. That's really important to me. But everyone's different. Everyone sees what chill or active or anything is.
And I mean, I think, like you, I practice, mindfulness, and I find breath work incredible. It's just something that's really helped me to almost switch off, because I kind of feel that cancer is always there. It's always right at the forefront of my mind, and I've struggled with that mentally, and I do think that my diagnosis has had a detrimental impact on my mental health, and I'm quite open about that now, but I've had to learn, how I can deal with that, and it is having these little coping techniques, and it might be different. It is going to be different for all of us on this call, but slowly you start to realize the little things that allow you to maybe switch off, or whether it's meeting a friend, whether it's reading a book, whether it's going for a walk. And I think we have to have that, because otherwise it does become all consuming. And I mean, I think you strike a good balance, because also you're quite kind of vocal about your diagnosis, like on social media and stuff. I also know that you are also quite a private person as well, so it's, how do you manage that kind of your public persona, through Copperfield? How do you manage that balance between, being a patient, but also being, a spokesperson for Copperfield, and, and not making yourself feel really overwhelmed by cancer? Because I think many of us on this call, we probably do feel that, cancer just takes control.
Yeah.
How do
I mean, I was diagnosed at a time when there weren't enough stories of long-term survival. There weren't enough stories at all. I mean, Instagram didn't even exist, so therefore no one had cancer, right? I through Copperfield and other means just had this real need to make sure that there were stories out there that others could look up to and kind of go, oh, I recognize myself in that, or I have that feeling too, or that person is surviving a long time, it can be done, I shall become that person. And I think sometimes the pressure of that is a lot, and I have to step away from it, and I do step away from it. I think there is probably a toxic pressure amongst people that don't share their story to feel like they should share their story or share their life with cancer, because everyone seems to be doing it online. And that's bullshit, guys. You don't have to do that at all. You don't have to do a dance in a chemotherapy ward to be to have a valid story, a valid life with cancer. Like, it's okay. And I very much have a life away from all of that, and I find it's very precious to me. I have, like the rest of us, I have friends, I have family, I have people that are dear to me that I don't have to share. I don't have to share conversations. I don't have to share all of the thinking and the whatnot. But I think with me wanting to be that person that people can see exists and is living well with cancer comes with the pressure that sometimes I think, oh, today I'm really not having a good day, but people need to see the shit with the good. Totally. They really do. Because I mean, that's life.
It is life, and I think you have to show that reality. I mean, I use my Instagram for my friends and family, and kind of update it with, I kind of use it that my son will look back and but I don't by any means have a lot of followers or whatever, but I find it really stressful sometimes, and I've had to really at times just come off it because I just feel this overwhelming pressure, to be something that I'm not, and I think there is that culture now within the cancer society that we all feel that, as you say, we have to be really prominent or, kind of talk about our diagnosis or, and I'm not dissing that because, for some people that is their coping mechanism.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And that absolutely crack on, but I think it does put a bit more pressure on us, I think, as patients now that we almost can't escape it, can we? And we've got to get that balance between people seeing the real side of cancer, but also people don't want us to be scared, do they?
I think just
a hard one.
Just take what you want from what you see and then leave the rest to everyone else. Like,
absolutely,
just do what you need to do, but
just
don't ever feel like there's some invalidity to your own experience because you're not sharing it. Absolutely. Like that, just, you should never feel that. And equally that I also think there's a lot of feeling, I mean, in society as a whole, that we have to be positive all the time, and that's also bullshit.
It's totally, with this diagnosis, it's bloody impossible to be positive all the time, and I mean, I've found since I've got hair again, like you bump into people and it's like, oh, you're looking so well, and sometimes I feel like just smacking them because it just does my head in, and it's like, oh, you're so, you're like, you're amazing, and you're going to fight this. No, I'm not, but I'm doing my bloody best, and actually I don't want to talk about it all the time, so can you just talk to me like Lisa, and can we just like go and like go to the pub or do what we used to do? And I'm not identified by cancer, and I think that's really important to like girls that are, or women on this call that, have maybe just been diagnosed. It's, cancer won't define you. I know at times it feels like that, doesn't it? It's
but there's, even amongst the medical profession, there's still this stigma of what a cancer patient should look like and how a cancer patient should be. And it's really important to me that gets broken down before, I mean, our friends and family learn, because I can be more forgiving with them. Like, but like even the other day, I had to have an ECG, like a pre-op ECG at the local GP. So a nurse obviously asked me to take my top off so she could put those stickers on and whatnot. And she said, oh, just get ready, I'll lock the door and all the rest of it. And she came over, she was eventually ready to put the stickers on. I could tell that she was checking out my chest, because I've had obviously both breasts removed, and one of them was because it had to remove the cancer, the other one was my choice because I wanted to be more even and I wanted to be flat chested on both sides. And I just could tell that she was about to say something, and then she obviously built up the courage to say, so are you having reconstruction? And I said, I just shook my head, and then she was just continuing to put stickers on. She said, is that a personal choice, or do you just not feel like having breasts put back there? And I said, I chose to have this one removed,
and none of your business.
And then she went, oh my god, that's so amazing and so brave,
so inspirational.
I'm like, oh wow.